When Jesus came out, wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe, Pilate said to the scribes and Pharisees, "Here is the man." As soon as the scribes and Pharisees saw him, they shouted, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" But Pilate answered, "You take him and crucify him. As for me, I find no basis for any charge against him." The scribes and Pharisees insisted, "We have a law, and according to that law he must die, because he has claimed to be the Son of God." When Pilate heard this, he was much afraid, and he went back inside the palace to speak to Jesus. "Where do you come from?" he asked Jesus. But Jesus did not answer him. "Do you refuse to speak to me?" Pilate said. "Don't you realize I have power either to free you or to crucify you?" Jesus answered, "You would have no power over me if it were not given to you from above." From then on, Pilate tried to set Jesus free. But the scribes and Pharisees kept shouting, "If you let this man go, you are no friend of Caesar. Anyone who claims to be a king opposes Caesar." When Pilate heard this, he brought Jesus out and sat down on the judge's seat at the place known as the Stone Pavement. It was the day of preparation of Passover week, about the 6th hour. "Here is your king," Pilate said to the scribes and Pharisees. But they shouted, "Take him away! Take him away! Crucify him!" "Shall I crucify your king?" Pilate asked. "We have no king but Caesar," the chief priests answered. Then Pilate handed Jesus over to them to be crucified. These are troubled times. There is a sense in which the darkness of history is descending, and we wonder, how shall we find our way forward in confidence and in hope? On Good Friday, we are reminded that Jesus, the Son of God, was willing to die a shameful death so that God's name would be high and lifted up. Jesus was the one who made the light of God plain for all to see. Some embraced that light, welcomed it, and took it to be the sign of salvation. Others did not welcome that light at all. These were those persons who ruled by power, who exploited and oppressed the people and the land, and in this way made themselves great. Jesus was a person just like us. Jesus was a human being just like us. On Good Friday, what we see is light and darkness in conflict, and it appears that the darkness will win. Jesus Christ is taken by the rulers of the age, taken, arrested, beaten, and nailed to a cross, where he gives up his life. Jesus, as he's hanging there, as his life ebbs away, finally concludes by saying, "It is finished." And in saying this, Jesus intends for us to know that his work of salvation has been completed. We now have opportunity to see the contrast between light and darkness. We know that the powers that rule the world are governed by darkness. We know that Jesus offers us light. And therefore, on this Good Friday, I am hoping that each one of you will recognize that the darkness has no power over us. And that becomes so important in these days when we are being tested. I am praying for each one of you and for all of you together that the Spirit of God will come within you, take root, and flourish, so that you may be able to overcome whatever it is that challenges us in these days. You know as well as I do that these are trying times. Still, in holding fast to the gospel of Jesus Christ, we recognize that death is not the last word. We will not go into the resurrection on Good Friday, but we know that in 3 days, Jesus will come again and show us that death has no power over us. Today is Good Friday, and as a symbol, we have been blowing out the Lenten candles for 5 weeks, and today on Good Friday, we recognize that Jesus is crucified, and so we blow out the light in the Christ candle, and it seems that the darkness has prevailed. But through our faith, we know light can never be cast out by darkness, and darkness is always cast out by light. May the grace of God be with you, one and all, now and for all the time to come. Amen. Beneath the cross of Jesus, I pray to take my stand. The shadow of a mighty rock within a weary land, a home within the wilderness, a rest upon the way, from the burning of the noontide heat and the burden of the day. Upon the cross of Jesus, my eyes at time can see the very dying form of one who suffered there for me. And from my broken heart, with tears to wonders I confess, the wonder of God's glorious love and my own emptiness. I take, O cross, your shadow for my abiding place. I ask no other sunshine than the sunshine of God's face. Content to let the world go by, to know no gain or loss. My sinful self, my only shame, my glory is in the cross. Friends, we are apart materially, but we are united spiritually. Christ is in each one of us, and there is but one Christ. And Christ is our life, and we are determined to share that life in and through all of our relations. Grace and peace be with you in these days, trusting always that life triumphs over death. Amen.